And that is all about some tariffs. Now, this article is a little bit older than I thought it was, but I updated the summary here for everything that's going on in the last 2 days. So, new China tariffs could disrupt Amazon sellers and raise prices. So on April 2nd, President Trump's Liberation Day imposed a 34% tariff on Chinese goods, atop a 20% levy totaling 54% effective April 9th. With China retaliating April 4th with 34% tariffs on U.S. goods, Amazon faces pressure as 25% of its first-party items come from China. It must choose to absorb the cost or raise prices, risking market edge. I'm not sure what that means. These tariffs disrupt free trade, burdening businesses and driving up costs for consumers potentially. The policy risks fueling inflation rather than fostering economic growth. Amazon's third-party sellers, over 60% of its sales are hit hard. They scramble to renegotiate or shift sourcing as costs soar beyond margins. Sellers face supply chain chaos and price hikes amid the escalating trade war. Small entrepreneurs vital to Amazon's ecosystem suffer most from this trade interference, struggling to adapt to sudden cost pressures. So definitely in the strong opinions column there for the news.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Obviously, this guy leans more towards tariffs hurting rather than being helpful at all. But where do you come down on it, Dana?
The majority of me thinks this is just a big old power play to move the needle in other areas. And so there's going to be basically Trump and his administration are dropping the hammer just like they did last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not the first time this has happened, right? And what happened last time? Said, okay, tariffs are going way up. All of us were up in arms, me included, and it equalized into something that worked, right? And we all adapted. I think this is no different. I think, and look, I'm no economist, very, very far from it. In fact, most of the economy that I have or own, I spend into things that everybody but me thinks are a bad investment. But it's I just think that this is a means to an end, not a hard policy shift. That's what I think.
I've definitely learned to not, how's the best way to say it? To not
freak out
the gun on my opinion of things that Trump does. He has a habit of figuring out how to make things work out, and the initial impression is rarely what's actually going on behind the scenes. Right. He likes the shock and awe, approach to things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I agree with you on that. I think this is going somewhere other than, leaving these tariffs on completely. Now, I'm a little bit torn on the way they went about it because they're calling these reciprocal tariffs when they're not really reciprocal tariffs, because the way they calculated the tariffs that other countries charge us is that they took the trade imbalance divided by the total trade, I believe. So basically how much more they're sending us versus us sending them. And then added in some actual tariffs that they have, plus any value added taxes, plus currency manipulation. And that's how they came up with these numbers. And so I'm not really a fan of that. I think they should have left out the trade imbalance, because that really has nothing to do with tariffs or anything else. Having a trade imbalance isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Other than a dollar amount. But I agree.
Especially since we're the largest country in the world, right? You can't possibly expect that, Paraguay is going to have the same amount of trade coming to us and from us as, they're sending us. Kind of thing, right? You're going to have some kind of imbalance between us and smaller countries. But I do like the idea of reciprocal tariffs. So if they would have just focused on, this is the average tariffs that this country charges us, plus these are value-added taxes they're charging on imports, plus maybe figuring out some kind of currency manipulation equation in there if they're manipulating their currency to get better pricing. And using that number, it would have been a lot better, and it would have looked a lot better and a more practical. But yeah, I think you're 100% right. These are not going to stay, most of these.
Don't think so.
I've already seen news actually this morning that, I've seen this on X. Argentina is in final negotiations to be the first zero tariff country. And then Vietnam is in negotiations to be the first zero tariff country as well.
Interesting.
So this is his goal, right? Is to negotiate with these countries to eliminate all of the tariffs. That's what he wants to do. So if that actually plays out the way that he probably wants it to, it could be an extremely positive thing. But I think we're, kind of walking a tightrope as to whether it, which way it goes, whether it blows up in our face or not. So we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so there's a couple of schools of thought out there, right? One is, hey, we're gonna get rid of all income tax, and the country's gonna make its money based on I think a standardized sales tax and tariffs, right? So that's one school of thought. Now we've got another school of thought, which is Trump's going to eliminate all tariffs, so there are no tariffs. And what happens if he also eliminates income tax? Then where's then it's just going to be sales tax. And is that enough money for the government? It certainly should be. And I don't know if you saw one of the latest Doge interviews where their goal is to save the country $1 billion. I think it was a day, and they're actually accomplishing that or finding that in savings. So
yeah, I haven't seen the interview, but I heard that.
Yeah, I saw the first quarter of the interview. It's actually quite good, and the guys that are on this thing are like, it's.
Oh, did we lose you, Damon? Or did I freeze? All right, so I think we lost Danon. It looks like my clock is still ticking. So hopefully Danon will get back to us here shortly. But yeah, so cutting the size of the government, as Danon was saying, and then eliminating tariffs and eliminating income taxes, that would be huge. That would be extremely huge. You would see, I think, the economy of the U.S. explode like you've never seen before. The question is if that's going to happen, because Trump can't eliminate income taxes on his own. That has to go through Congress. There's questions whether he can even impose these tariffs on his own. That's going through Congress right now. Senator Rand Paul is kind of leading the charge on that one that I seen this morning as well. So if it happened, that would be awesome. The economy in the U.S. would explode, and trade around the world would explode if we're able to eliminate tariffs. So if that is the outcome, where we're able to eliminate tariffs for a lot of countries, except for those who don't want to play ball, that could be extremely beneficial. And then eliminating the income tax, that's just going to have a huge net positive for all Americans. So with this right now, we're just going to have to wait and see exactly what happens going forward. But we got Danon back. Looks like you're on your phone.
I am on my phone. I lost internet, which was super cool.
Fun. Well, I was just replying to what I heard you talking about with eliminating tariffs and income taxes and having just the sales tax and stuff like that. And I was thinking that, the economy would boom.
Yeah.
if that was to
and
actually happen, and we could cut the size of the government enough to just pay for it from a decent size sales tax.
I'd like to point out you can hear me right now, right?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. I'd like to point out the timing at which I lost the internet. So clearly I said something the NSA didn't like. So,
Yes. There you go. Get the
you know,
conspiracy theorists going.
yep. So
Yeah.
clearly I am 100% correct in what I said.
Yep. But yeah, I feel like our kind of our conclusion on this, that the goal of these tariffs is to decrease the world's tariffs as much as possible. If that is the case and it works out that way, where there's a majority of countries that just say, okay, we're eliminating all US tariffs, and Trump is like, okay, the US is doing the same, and then we can figure out how to eliminate the income taxes, which has to go through Congress, the economy in the US just explodes. But if
I
that
think the
doesn't
world
happen,
economy.
then we're going to be hurting.
Yeah. But I believe the world economy will explode.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, big time, because
Yeah.
the US is just the largest economy in the world. So if our economy explodes, that's going to,
It,
as they say, a rising tide lifts all boats or all ships.
yeah. Man, I'm still having strange connectivity issues.
Yeah, your
All right.
phone seems to be working fine.
Okay, good.
Not a
Yeah,
problem at
I
all.
I had full. This is crazy. So I just lost my internet in the house, and I had full 5G, and I just swapped over to 2 bars of LTE. So I
Hmm.
think I'm getting attacked.
Yeah, they're shooting you with some special weapons, trying to shut
I
off your cell phone service and
Electronics.
your internet.
Yeah.